Hello, folks. Welcome to Scratch the Surface. I'm EJ Scott. Today I talk with comedian Adam Burke. I never met him before. I just wrote to him and I said, "Would you do my podcast?" And he said yes. It was very nice of him to take a chance on a guy on the internet. Before I talk about Adam, I just want to give myself a plug. Go to Twitter and follow me on Twitter at EJ Scott and the podcast at EJ Podcast. I have a website, ejscott.com. I have a documentary called Running Blind on iTunes, Amazon, and Google Play. You can get a digital copy of it for $2 or $3. It's just a 30-minute documentary about me running 12 marathons in 2012 blindfolded because I am going blind from an eye disease called choroideremia. I'm legally blind right now. It runs in my family. It's a degenerative genetic disease, and I did that. And it's a really well done documentary, so check that out. Be well worth your time and money. And I'm raising money for charity. Go to crowdrise.com/7on7. I want to say hello to iHeartRadio listeners. I have joined iHeartRadio, which is really exciting. And hopefully we'll get more ears listening to this podcast. And so thank you for listening. If you're on the iHeartRadio app or website, welcome. Check out my other podcasts, please. There's a lot to catch up on. So cool. So Adam Burke, very nice guy, very funny guy. I found him through he had a stand-up album a few years back, and I listened to it recently, and I was like, this is really funny. I wonder where he's at. And then it turned out, as soon as I looked him up, like days later, he was coming to New York from Chicago. And it just worked out, timing-wise, it worked out kind of perfectly. But so he comes over, and we talk a lot about comedy and politics, and he's from Northern Ireland. We talk about that. He's moved around a lot. He's lived in Texas, and he's living in Chicago now. He's divorced. We talk about that. We talk about life and death and Trump and all sorts of stuff. Stand-up comedy. I did a little bit years ago. I might get back into it. We'll see. But we talk about that and so much more. He's a really funny guy. We had a really good conversation, and I hope you enjoy it. Here it is, Adam Burke. Hi, Adam.
How's it going? How are you?
Good. How are you?
What do you prefer?
Me?
Yeah.
Like my name?
By name, yeah.
EJ.
EJ, okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if that was short for something that you prefer.
It is short for something. I prefer the shorter version.
Okay, EJ, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
How's your day been?
It's uneventful. I came to New York to pick up a cold apparently. And
Oh no, are you sick?
Yeah, so stay away. So no bear hugs.
Oh no, okay. I have to wash my hands after.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you're sick because you're doing a bunch of shows here.
I am. Yeah. I live in Chicago, but I'm trying to get out to New York as much as possible and do shows. And people have been very nice, so I've been doing a bunch of shows.
Do you like New York?
I love it. Yeah. Everyone's surprisingly very nice. I don't know why that's surprising, but they are.
Have you thought about moving here?
I have. This is sort of like a test run to kind of get my feet wet, and then hopefully something will take, and I'll just kind of get lodged in Bushwick or something. I think is the plan.
I lived in Chicago for a few years.
Oh, you did?
Andersonville.
Yes, very nice.
Where are you abouts?
We're over in Albany Park, so we're on. You can wave to us on your way out of Chicago on your way to O'Hare.
Okay, who's a we?
Me and my girlfriend.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long you guys been together?
3 years.
3 years. How's it going?
Okay,
so far,
I think so far so good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How'd you guys meet?
We met performing together. She's a dancer. She's a belly dancer and a burlesque dancer. And we got booked at a show in Indiana, and she was my ride. And then we kind of got to know each other that way.
How was she your ride?
We were driving out there, and I don't drive.
Oh.
So she was driving out for the show, and I was booked on the show.
You got connected somehow.
And and so the person who was booking the show arranged for her to pick me up.
Ah.
Yeah, and that's kind of how we met.
So he's kind of your matchmaker.
Yeah, she was. Yeah.
She.
Yeah.
You don't drive.
I don't.
Well, I guess Chicago, you don't really need to.
Yeah, no, there's that, and I from the age 10 onwards, I lived in London. There was never really a reason to drive there. In England, you can get away with not driving. Yeah. I don't know. I just never. I've tried to avoid it.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. There's something about it terrifies me.
Well, when you learn when you're like 15.
Yeah.
If you're whatever age you might be,
I'm 41 now. I'm long in the tooth. Yeah.
Me too. So if I just started learning now, it'd be really terrifying.
Yeah.
You're braver when you're younger.
Yeah, it's really. What I find hilarious about cars is that when you don't drive, people think that's odd. Especially in America, people think it's weird if you're an adult who doesn't drive.
Right.
And my thing is, none of this is natural. We're not made. We weren't designed to drive cars. Mm-hmm. You can tell, like everything is telling us that we're not supposed to drive cars.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but I do like that. I do like the notion that I'm somehow aberrant because I haven't evolved to drive. Operate a 2-ton thing that kills the planet. Mm-hmm. But sure, okay.
Right. Well, if you're. My girlfriend is born and raised Brooklyn. Okay. She didn't learn to drive till she was in her 20s. Yeah. Because she moved out to Los Angeles.
Right. And
then you kind of have to. But if you're staying in New York, Chicago, London, you can get away with not driving.
Yeah. You can get away with not doing a lot of things.
Especially nowadays with Ubers and stuff.
Yeah.
That's taking over. I don't drive. I'm forced not to drive. I'm going blind.
Oh, okay.
I'm legally blind.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you very much. So I haven't driven.
I'm sorry to hear that. I'm glad that you don't drive.
Yeah.
Thanks for not driving.
But you're welcome. Because it's been about 8 years, and even then I should have probably stopped sooner.
Okay.
Probably. When I moved to Chicago, I stopped.
Stopping sooner is really key to driving.
Yeah.
Knowing when to stop is a big part of it.
Or just stop when you're not supposed to. I get freaked out when old people drive.
Yeah.
Because when they start just not even knowing their names or where they are, or they can't even dress themselves or something, they still get to drive.
Well, the most terrifying thing is Texas. I lived in Dallas, Texas for 5 years, and again, like I think as long as you're able to do whatever. But I think the terrifying thing in Texas is that people love to drive huge cars, and so you have these tiny 75-year-old women, like just lost in this sea of chrome, in this F1 go fuck yourself,
right?
Whatever it is, I don't know if we're allowed to swear on this.
Sure.
But yeah, in this these F-150s, and they're just driving over houses and stuff like that.
Yeah, like tanks.
Yeah, they can't even see over the thing, and they're just they're absolutely
they're loading their guns while they're driving.
Right. When they're in their car, they're as indestructible as they are frail as a human being. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the people who get destroyed by a strong gust of wind, and yet they are in these absolute just behemoths of cars.
So you lived in Dallas. Now that must have been trickier.
Yeah, that was proper American culture shock. I think if I'd moved to Chicago first, it would have been like step into your toe in like lukewarm water. But like,
maybe we could go through your chronology.
Sure.
So you were born in Australia.
I was, yes.
Is that correct? What part?
In Perth. Which is no offense to anyone in Perth, but
I have a huge listening in Perth.
Yeah. It's not what people think of when they think of Australia. Perth is weird because it's in Western Australia. Western Australia is the part of Australia where no one lives, relatively speaking. But my folks were there in the 70s, and they had 3 kids. I'm one of 4. They had one in Northern Ireland. But so I was born in Perth, but before I was like a year old, they moved back to Northern Ireland. So my mom's from the north, and my dad's from the Republic, from Mayo.
Okay, how'd they meet?
They met. Their stories where they met in London. So as much as Irish people leave Ireland now, in the 60s there was no work in Ireland. Ireland was, depending on who you ask, was bordering on being a third world country. It was terribly mismanaged, Ireland in the 60s. So they both the only opportunity was to go to London. So there's huge amounts of Irish in London in the 60s, and there would be essentially Irish, like Kilburn and places like this were essentially Irish villages, and they kind of like inside London, if that makes sense. And my dad was working as a bouncer in a nightclub, and my mum met her there. Met him there.
And your mom was going to the club.
She was just going to the club. Yeah, she was like
a shaker groove thing, right? Something like that.
Something like that. Sure, sure.
And
Yeah.
he was like, "Whoa, she stuck out."
Yeah, I think my uncle was actually hitting on her, and then.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she didn't like my uncle. She liked my dad better. So yeah, yeah, that's how they met, and then they kind of like. They lived in London for years, and then they moved to Australia and started having kids.
Wow. So how'd your mom work? Did she work?
Yeah, she worked it again because it's like the 60s was different. She worked in just department stores and stuff like that.
Right.
She was like she had the whole 60s beehive and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And my dad was what's called a teddy boy, so he like had teddy boy.
It sounds like a gay.
Yeah, it does. It does exactly.
Like a grizzly or something.
Yeah, he would be. If he was still alive, he'd be mortified to find that out. But that would damn. I'm one of the many reasons I'm chagrined that he's no longer with us is to tell him that Teddy Boy sounds like a gay subculture.
What happened to your dad?
He passed away from cancer about 12 years ago.
I'm sorry to hear that.
But he was like he had like the sideburns and greased hair and all that kind of stuff. But he was a bouncer at this club.
Straight club.
Yeah, straight club. I mean, straight to the point of where they would make. So London in the 60s, the Irish culture in London in the 60s would make women and men line up in separate lines. And
why? Why? Get the women in first, I guess.
To get the women in first, the women would get in for free. But the notion was the women, like, if you got in for free, but then you kind of basically couldn't be a wallflower. You couldn't get in, if you got in for free, you couldn't just you had to agree to, like, dance with the blokes.
Oh, weird.
Weird. It's weird for, like, because again,
what happened? Is somebody policing this? Is somebody like
my dad?
Oh, really?
He's on the door. He's that making sure that none of the guys are too drunk or too.
And he's also watching who's dancing and who's not. And stuff.
Yeah, I think it's just sort of like, especially with the Irish. The Irish are very good at giving you. Passing all these kind of weird cultural codes where you kind of, you just know that you're in the wrong.
Okay.
They're very good at letting you know that you've fucked up.
Okay.
Yeah. So there was a club called the Gresham in
Gresham?
I wish it was called the Gresham. That sounds like a great punk club. No, it's called the Gresham.
Oh, Gresham.
And it was the kind of club. What's weird is because when you think of the 60s, you think like super, counterculture and swinging 60s and all the rest of it. But especially in London, I think at that point was this weird halfway point where they're sort of dragging themselves out of the 50s. So when they would go to this club, there'd be show bands. So it'd be basically like an 8-piece band, and they would just like basically play the top 40, but in a kind of crappy show band kind of styly.
Right.
Yeah.
So your mom. So did she have a job?
She worked. Did she?
Yeah.
Yeah, she worked at like I said. I'm
sorry if I missed.
No, it's all right. She worked at like department stores, like Woolworths was one.
Okay, so with all the moving, she could get.
It was very easy to get jobs in London. My dad was like, I think he was a labourer as well. So my dad has always had 2 jobs, at least 2 jobs his entire life.
Okay.
Because he was just one of those people.
And so 3 kids in Australia, and then the move to Ireland because.
Just
a change.
Yeah, just a change.
Because in your stand-up, I was listening to your stand-up on how. It was like a downgrade, right? From moving from Perth, Australia to what part of
Northern Ireland? So Armagh, Armagh, which is right across the border, smack bang in the middle of the Troubles. By the way, we moved there about 5 years, I believe, 5 years after Bloody Sunday and Bloody Friday.
So what was the thinking there?
Monday, I think.
Folks?
What's that?
What do you think just to go back home?
Oh, it's a whole thing that I don't necessarily want to get into, but
really?
Yeah. They they sort of outstayed their welcome, in
Australia.
Yeah, there's some stuff happened.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they just.
Was it a visa thing?
No. But
like illegal stuff.
Well, the thing is, in Australia at the time, there was something called there's a program that was known as the £10 Palms, even though Palm is you might know. palm is sort of an Australian word for an English person.
Okay.
Even though they were 10-pound patties, really. But the 10-pound palm was basically because in the 70s Australia was underpopulated. They didn't have enough people to basically work the farms, work the land, and basically be a society.
Right.
So the notion was, if you emigrated from England to Australia, it would only be, your passage would only be £10, which is I think my folks sailed there. I think they took like two steamships or something. Basically, not steamships, but two ships essentially to get to Australia. So it would be like, it was like 10. So the notion was, the Australian government would subsidise your passage out there, and if you stayed there for 10 years, then that would just get written off. But if you became a ward of the public, or you became like a nuisance, or you were then you would have to pay your passage the fuck out of Australia.
Okay, is that what happened?
Which is not what happened to them, but
Okay.
they just like they just had some like business issue. Nothing too scandalous, but it was just like my dad was starting a business and it didn't work out, and then they just
involved like the mob or something like that?
No. I can't imagine
Gambling?
the Australian mob. Although Australians, they don't have mobs, they have bikie gangs, which I think is hilarious. They don't call them bikers, they call them bikies, which is adorable.
That's cute.
Which bikies hate.
Those are motorcycles.
Yes, motorcycle
Or
gangs.
bikies.
Bikies, yeah.
That's cute.
They are that's the Australian mob. Or
Okay.
the bikie. It is cute, right?
It's adorable.
It sounds like a kid's show, the bikies. But I'm sure if you said that to them, they wouldn't.
They would kill me.
Yeah.
And your mom's still around?
My mom's still around. Yeah, my mom lives in London.
She's in London.
Yeah, she's doing well. She's a grandmom.
She's grandma. Okay.
My brother, I have two. I have a niece and a nephew.
A niece.
A niece. Yeah.
A lot of moving around though. It sounds
Yeah.
like you're just kind of used to that.
I am not as much as my brothers. Well, my younger brother's a bit more settled. My older brother's very peripatetic. He's like all over the joint. But yeah, I don't know what it was. I think we were just used to it.
Yeah. Did you, as a kid, how'd that feel? Did you enjoy it, or did you wish you could stay
When I
in
was
this
a
place?
kid, when we moved from Northern Ireland, I was devastated.
Really?
Yeah. I just, what's really hilarious when I think back at it, like I was really upset, because we were leaving, because I knew this small town we were in, Camla, in Armagh, and I was really upset. What's hilarious is I was acting like I was leaving. I remember saying like, I don't have it, all my friends are here.
Yeah.
I didn't really have that many friends, to be honest. I really didn't. It's not like I was like this big social butterfly or anything. I was
Maybe
10.
just scared.
Yeah, I was just scared. Yeah. But I just didn't have a lot of friends. But when we first moved to London, I hated it because it was rough, and there was like not a lot, but a little bit. There was a little bit of anti-Irish or anti-Northern Irish sentiment at the time. Like not it wasn't horrendous, but just in the way that kids are, in the way that kids know that like, generally someone from Northern Ireland is because at that time in 1986, the IRA were bombing the mainland and had set off bombs in a few places, especially in the early 80s. So there was a little bit of it wasn't terrible, it wasn't persecuted or anything, but there was teasing and and we were definitely made to feel pretty shitty,
Yeah.
So I found the transition really, really hard.
Yeah, it sounds like you were being picked on. Were you bullied and
Yeah,
beat up
but
and stuff?
not really. I mean, I was beaten up. If I was beaten up, was by the only time I remember being beaten up as a kid was by girls. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure that counts, or I'm not sure if that counts equally.
That means she likes you.
That's what they say. That's
Right?
what they were
Is that
telling
what
me.
that
I'm
means?
not sure that was true. But the thing was, once we sort of got established in London, we would go back to Northern Ireland because my mum still had a lot of family there. My dad has lots of family in the south. South was lovely when we go to Mayo, but when you go back to Northern Ireland, then as I was being a teenager, when I was a kid, I didn't really understand what the Troubles were.
Okay.
I didn't really
like politically.
Yeah, I didn't really get it. You know what I mean? I just knew that there were soldiers around. We lived right next. We were sort of in between a heliport, it was actually apparently it was the busiest heliport in Europe. It's where where they would like drop off British soldiers, and there was a barracks about 5 miles away. And so I was just used to having soldiers around, you know what I mean, and helicopters and all that kind of stuff. And I was used to my friends vaguely saying, stuff about, anti-Protestant stuff, but I didn't really know what it was. And again, my parents really tried to keep us very apolitical. My parents very kind of stayed out of it, which kind of became an issue. That's sort of why. I mean, that's we kind of ended up leaving Northern Ireland because I think there was a perception that we weren't because we were just kids. And we were like, oh, there's a soldier with a gun. We were kids. We're like, we like guns. And there was, I guess there was a notion that we were because we were Catholic, there was a notion that we were, the kids now, not even our parents, but there's a notion that the kids were too friendly with the soldiers. So I think there was some vague threats made. And
threats by who?
By local...
threats to your parents?
Yeah.
About you guys being friendly to the soldiers?
Yeah, by people who may or may not be affiliated with certain...
your background's very dodgy.
Yeah, it is. It is.
There's a lot of let's not talk too much about that.
Yeah, no, but I don't. So I mean, there were definitely Sinn Féin. I don't know if you know what Sinn Féin is the nationalist.
No.
Is the what's known. So when the Irish refer to a Republican in Ireland is someone who wants all Northern Ireland to be subsumed back into Ireland and to be one nation, nation once again, as the song goes. And yeah, man, it was just a weird time. It was just a different time. So that's kind of why we got out of there. And so when I would go back as a teenager, any country, it's kind of like any country that is in the middle of even an internecine war, but like any sort of long-standing guerrilla war, it's just any growth is sort of strangled.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing with the south side of Chicago.
Right.
People won't start businesses with us. You know what I mean?
Where it's like one of the highest death rates.
Yeah, and then you say, but if people did start businesses, would that then force out the who knows? But when I would go back, after living in London just like 5 years, I'd go back to Northern Ireland, and it seemed very parochial to me, and it seemed very small-minded, and it seemed like the whole place had been stymied, by this thing. And so it was so funny that just within the 5 or 6 years that I left, as a kid when I was 10 years, like I was wailing and screaming, and I had to be dragged out of there.
Yeah.
And then when I was 15, 16, going back on, Jesus Christ, this is kind of, I was very relieved. And it's like, because by the time I went back, because I would have gone back, I was going back in the late 80s, early 90s, that's when the Good Friday Accord started happening. And then when I would go back even later, once there was a tentative peace, then you could see it was night and day, the difference in Northern Ireland, and people actually started having some hope, and there seemed to be a reason to have jobs and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was weird. It was a weird time to be like...
What a strange way to grow up.
Yeah, it didn't seem strange to me,
but in hindsight.
Yeah, in hindsight, yeah. Well, it's like...
Geez, that's a lot.
Yeah, it is. My thing is, and I think the only way it really affected me is that I've never been good at processing things in the moment. Like I never really get, like if someone dies or there's a breakup or anything like that, I'm not very good.
You have a delayed reaction.
I always have a delayed reaction, and I think that's a lot to do with how I grew up, because I didn't understand where I was living until 5 years after. And I went, oh, fuck, okay, oh, that's why everyone would duck when there was a car backfiring.
Right.
You know what I mean? I had no idea. That's why my parents, we were kids, and like whenever we would go to pick something up out of the street, the way kids do. Mm-hmm. Like, what's this? Like, your parents would freak the fuck out because they didn't know if it was what we would call today an IED.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So
yeah.
but then you kind of go, and then it's kind of, your whole life becomes like the end of The Sixth Sense, where you like fill in the rest of it. You're like, oh, that's why, and
They're all
okay,
dead people.
yeah, exactly,
Everybody's dead.
right.
That's terrifying. Did your parents, were they super protective?
They were really cool. They were great. They weren't protective in a way that. I mean, the fact that like I still have me and all my brothers, I think we have super fond memories of growing up in Northern Ireland.
Is it four boys?
It's I had a sister who's also passed. So it was 3 boys and a sister, and but as far as I know, we had a pretty good. I mean, again, I don't really know like. I was only 10 when I left, but I remember it being pretty great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, I'd have to put that down to my folks. Mm. Because we weren't really, it's also, it's not like we were in Belfast. You know what I mean? We weren't like, we didn't have to cross barbed wire to get to school or anything. But in a weird way, it was kind of, we were more in it because we were sort of in this rural area where Republican sentiment, pro IRA sentiment was kind of could run unfettered and was completely normal, in a way.
What did your parents have? Were they funny?
My dad was. My mom is. It took me years to realize how funny my mom is. My dad was obviously funny. My dad was always telling jokes. My dad was 6'2", 300 pounds. Just bouncer, just big drinker, very ebullient, very new jokes, would tell jokes, would goof around. But my mom is very much more
Dry.
very very dry. What's weird, but then once my dad passed away, she became more. She sort of took on some of his more outgoing traits, but
she got the spotlight.
Yeah. But she's very dry. She's very witty. And she's very sarcastic around bullshitters, which is the funniest. When she gets a few drinks around, it's really funny and terrifying to see her around someone she doesn't like.
Yeah.
It's so funny because she doesn't give a fuck. She just kind of goes after them, and she's got a very low tolerance for bullshit and a very high perception of it.
Did your parents stay married till your father passed?
Yeah. They've been married, I'd say 35 years, I think, by the time he passed, yeah.
Can I ask what your sister passed of?
She passed in 2010, so 6 years ago. Of cancer, both my yeah.
Is it the same cancer that your dad passed from?
No, I think she had melanoma, I think, that metastasized, but...
Sorry.
Yeah.
Are you the oldest?
I would have been the second youngest.
Second youngest. Yeah. Okay, so you were the third of the 3 in Austria.
Yeah.
Okay. And did you get along with your siblings?
Yeah. Me and my brothers. I don't get to see my younger brother as much because he's still in London. But my older brother comes and visits me a lot, and he has a lot of friends over here. He has more friends in Chicago.
Oh,
really? It's Northern Ireland all over again. He's got way more friends than I do. But he is he's great. He's
what do they do?
My younger brother has a family and he's a writer. He's a very good writer, actually. He's a writer and he works for FedEx, and he also writes science fiction novels. And there's this kind of great. I don't know if you know about this, but there's like sort of a great community online of like people who just sort of force each other to write, and they just.
My girlfriend just did something like that.
Is it Wattpad?
No, it was NaNoWriMo.
Oh, NaNoWriMo, yeah.
You know that one?
Yes.
So she wrote in November. She spent the whole month, every day writing in November.
Yeah, I've heard of it, NaNoWriMo. But Wattpad is almost like a year-round thing of that, because what Wattpad is you just basically publish your chapters as you go.
Oh, interesting.
And so then people will read them and go, oh, I really like that, or like, I don't know where this is going, or that's strange. And so like, what?
Can you revise?
I think you can. Yeah. But he's written a couple of books. He's super talented. And then my older brother is he's not a stand-up, but he should be. He's like way funnier than I am. But he travels. He just travels. He'll work. He'll work for a few months and then he'll save up. He's very good at saving, and then he'll just kind of take off, and he'll come here. He'll go to Europe. He'll go to Australia. He's just
Free spirit.
Yes, a free spirit, but not in that annoying way that free spirits sometimes can be.
So when did you move to the States?
At 99.
You were at how old?
I was 23.
23.
Yeah.
And up to that point, then you were in London. You came here from London?
Yep.
And you went to Dallas first?
Yeah.
Why did you go there first?
I was married in Dallas for.
Oh, you were married?
I fell in love with a girl who's American in Sheffield, and we got married, and then I moved to where she lives.
So you did long distance for a bit?
Yeah.
Okay, and then she's from Dallas.
Yeah, and I moved.
How long were you guys together?
Married 4.5, 5 years.
Oh, 4.5. Yeah. That's not bad.
I think that's
That's pretty good.
It's like we should get like a participation trophy.
Yeah. Get a ribbon.
Yeah.
What happened when it just didn't work out?
Yeah, it just didn't work out.
You guys started growing apart.
Yeah.
Along those lines.
Those things.
Maybe she wanted you to drive. She's like, I have
You know
to drive
what?
everywhere.
You know what? That's definitely a part of it. I mean, I'm not going to lie, especially in Dallas, where it's like, and also taking the bus. Dallas isn't too bad. I've been back a couple times since. It's gone a bit better with public transportation, but man, in the early 2000s, trying to get around by bus in Dallas, it was kind of hilarious. The cool thing about Dallas is the only people who would see you, you'd be standing at a bus stop waiting for like an hour for a bus in sweltering 90-degree, Dallas heat.
Yeah.
And no one would give two shits except Hispanic people would stop and go, "Where are you going?" And from time to time, and I'd be like, "Oh no, I'm waiting for the bus," and they'd be like, "I've done this.
You're gonna die out here.
This bus isn't coming for another 40 minutes. I'm going to this intersection. Is that close to where you are?" Like,
wow.
And it was, it was kind of like, that's why. I don't know. I always have a fondness for that, for those people who are like. I just think that's really funny, with some talk that's going on now about about certain people coming into the country about how they're drained. It's like no, those that's. I mean, that's beautiful. Those are beautiful, helpful people who kind of understand the fucking struggle, and who understand like what is I don't know. That always really struck a chord with me. Like some 40-year-old Hispanic woman gave a young white guy a ride. You know what I mean? Which is not only kind but also kind of risky if you think about it. But that stuff always kind of stuck with me about Dallas.
She could have killed you.
Huh?
She could have killed you.
She could have killed me, exactly. Yeah, she could have. Yeah, she probably would have got the upper hand.
Is your comedy these days? The album I listened to of yours is from 2012.
Yeah.
So, but is your comedy these days very political? American political?
Not by design. The funny thing is, I keep trying to be more personal. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to do a balance of different stuff. It's just, it comes out the way it comes out. And, and it's like I try not to write political stuff, and then it ends up kind of just sort of bits and pieces come out.
Not though. It's almost when Donald Trump does something, as a comic, stuff just comes to your head, flooding to your head.
Well, yes and no. So there is a bit I'm doing about that now, about the difficulty of talking about him, because he is sort of a new phenomenon.
Yeah.
And he is, it's a 16-year-old, it's a 16-year-old girl is president. She won't.
No offense to 16-year-old girls.
No offense to 16-year-old girls, but she will not get off her phone. You know what I mean? She just won't. And she's creating drama where there's no drama. Or 16-year-old boys, whatever. Whatever you want to say. But just I'm picturing this kind of stuck-up teenage. It's a teenager has got somehow.
I think you're even giving him too much credit. To be honest, I think he's less than T.I. He's more toddlerish. That's like, what's Twitter?
Right. So there's that one side. And I was talking to a friend of mine about this last night. There's that side of it where we're all going, oh my God, what an idiot, what an embarrassment. And there's the other side where you're like, Jesus, what a fucking genius. Because we're all talking about him. Mm-hmm. And we're making him the lens through which we see everything. Like, everything is about him. And it's in terms of, in terms of turning an entire country into your own personal brand. Stalin will be looking at this guy and going, Jesus Christ, way to go.
Yeah, thumbs up.
You didn't even have them. You didn't even have to commission a painting of yourself. You didn't even have to commission murals of yourself for them to put them. They're doing it for you.
Yeah.
They're putting giant paintings of you on walls and calling it protest. You don't give a fuck, because at the end of the day, it's still a painting of you.
Yeah.
You're the most famous person in the world, and you've done that via a country's democracy. And every time someone goes, can you believe what Trump did today? He doesn't give a fuck about any of the words around the word Trump. He doesn't give a shit. And this is by design. And he's a genius in that aspect. And he's fine to be a famous idiot as long as it keeps him,
spotlight, I guess,
and a secret genius.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've known about Donald Trump for decades.
Yeah.
And he was always kind of either a joke or a nothing. And now it's everybody. He's international now.
Yeah.
All 7 continents.
Yeah.
Everybody knows him and talks about him.
Yeah.
He's still a joke, but now he's global.
Right.
He's the most powerful joke in the world.
Right. And he doesn't care about the joke part.
No. Well, he doesn't. It's a the narcissism and the lack of self-awareness is like, I like my protective coating that makes me believe that I am great. I don't care what you guys are wrong. And if you're saying something negative, then you guys are clearly something wrong with you guys.
Yeah. It's just, and it's like, and you can't get through that wall. You literally can't. And what's hilarious about it is that the more he denies objective reality, the more people try to prove, but he doesn't care about it. Why would he care?
It's a just turning that, whatever that part of your brain is just off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
it must be wonderful. It must be a wonderful, oblivious place to live in.
Right. I think that's what the hair is. Is
covering up the switch.
Exactly. It stops. The hair is like lead. It stops outside negative stimuli from getting in.
And it keeps aliens from reading your thoughts.
Yeah. But you can't like. It's what's weird about it. It's just what's weird now. It's hard to know what the end game for the incompetence is, because it's weird that it's this transparently chaos at the moment, so I don't know what the end game there is. I don't know how much it is. Again, it's difficult to know with him. It's difficult to know how much is on purpose and how much is genuine.
I think he also just surrounds himself with the yes people that tell him what he wants to hear. And when that whole stuff with the band was going down, he's like, "It's going great."
Yeah.
Everybody loves it. That's what I'm being told.
Yeah.
That's what my yes people are telling me. Everybody loves it. It's going well.
I always find that fascinating, just about systems in general, that we always assume, like when you're on a show sometimes, when you're doing a show, or like you're seeing a live show being taped, and you think somehow there's this controlling intelligence that is basically making everything happen. But then once you're in close to it, you realize it's just sort of like several people agreeing sort of to do their job, and sort of agreeing to make a thing happen. And I think what he's done a good job of exposing is that when you make government so divisive, when you cut people out of the loop, where I think there has been this peaceful transition of power in the past, and it's like we just assume that one president takes over from the next, and that people sort of have these handshake agreements, but he's made himself so odious to people that there's been that breakdown. You know what I mean? Like, people literally don't know. He's got people in his staff who literally don't know how government works.
Yeah. That's what they wanted, right? That's what they wanted. People that they wanted to drain the swampers.
Right.
They just wanted people that haven't. They want real people, real billionaires.
Right. Exactly. But government is a different. It's a different order of business. It's a different thing. You've got people who are career government workers, and they are, in a sense, apolitical. You know what I mean? They're, in a sense, like, we don't give a fuck, you know, just tell us. But if you don't talk to those people, if you're like, those people are part of the system, it's like, yeah, they are. That's why you need them, because they will tell you how to work the lights in the conference room.
Right.
They'll tell you
where the coffee maker is.
Right, exactly. It's bizarre. It's bizarre. I don't know.
Otherwise, you just pee in a cup and go, it's coffee.
I had a line that I was doing. You know, people were saying, you know, Trump must be great for comedians. He must be a gold mine. I was like, yeah, well, people die in gold mines all the time.
Yeah.
Like, it's a risky endeavor. But I don't know.
I'd rather have Hillary, you know what I mean, and let people make jokes about her than the jokes that are about Trump.
I do think if Hillary was in, you know, this sort of opposition that Trump says that he's, you know, getting from the media, I think, you know, I mean, if Hillary got in and the House and the Senate were, you know, as they are, she wouldn't have got a single thing signed. You know, every executive order, you know what I mean? So I think, as bad as the stalemate was with Obama, not to get into it too much, but you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I still think we would have a different kind of shit show at the moment.
How did you get into the country? Was it through marriage?
Through there's a hole in the fence, and I climbed over. It was in the dead of night. I parasailed in. You know, yeah, we went through the whole process. Me and my
Was it
me and my wife.
lengthy?
It is lengthy, yeah.
Yeah,
it's about when you do it right, it's 3-4 years.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Did you have to stay in Europe for all that time?
For bits of it, yeah.
For bits of it, you had to fly back and forth,
Yeah,
probably, right?
yeah. Well, no. You can't do that. But you actually can't when you do it right. But yeah.
And my friend just got married. Well, not just, but recently got married to a girl from Thailand.
Yeah.
And they were married, but she still had to wait in Thailand.
Yeah.
For like almost a year. I want to say a year or something. I'm like, wow, that's so there's, you know, it's not easy getting in.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So you got your girlfriend now for 3 years.
Yeah.
And you live together.
Yeah.
And do you have a dog?
We do. How'd you know?
I don't know. Most people in Brooklyn, right? Everybody has a dog.
Yeah. Oh, do they do? Is that the big
It feels
thing?
like it. Are you in Brooklyn area? Do you live in Brooklyn?
No. Like I said, I'm just visiting right now. We
that's
live
right,
in Chicago. But we have a dog. We have a tiny little thing. I'm surprised by how big people's dogs are here. You've got a big. Was that a lab?
That's my lab. We actually got him in Los Angeles.
Okay.
Because we live in Los Angeles, and we're here because my girlfriend's working here right now.
Yeah.
And then we'll go back in a month for a few months.
Okay.
And we'll come back for
That's
a few
nice.
months. And we're just kind of bi-coastal these days.
What's his name?
His name's Banner.
Okay, that's a good name for a dog.
Hulk.
That's great.
You a comic book guy at all?
I on and off, yeah.
I don't know if
Yeah.
that's cool.
I just rewatched the old the Stallone version of Judge Dredd. That was what I was into those comic books when I was a kid.
Judge Dredd?
Yeah, 2000 AD was.
That was a British comic, right?
Yeah.
What other British did you read? What other ones did they have back then?
Well, so there was this one. So 2000 AD was a science fiction comic in which Judge Dredd was one of the stories. So it was like printed on newsprint. It just turned 40 years old, actually. Wow. It just turned as old as I am, almost. But it was printed on newsprint, and you get there'd be 6 or 7 stories, and they would all be science fiction or fantasy stories. So they would rotate all these characters, out, and Judge Dredd was obviously the most popular.
Did you watch the newest Dredd?
I did. I did.
Good.
I liked it a lot. I hope they. I know that Alex Garland said that they're not going to make a sequel, but I hope that they buckle.
You should.
They should, I think, or do a Netflix show.
That'd be fun.
Yeah,
that'd be fun. So you went all right, Dallas. So what? It must have been hard moving from Europe to Dallas.
Yeah.
You said it was a big culture shock.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That must have been. That probably didn't help anything. Just adjusting to this relationship and all that stuff. That must have been a lot of pressure on both of you.
Yeah. I think there was a few things I just I remember my ex-wife was mad about my inability to eat for like the first year, just because there was just Tex-Mex everywhere. I never had Tex-Mex before, and I don't know if you know the Irish. Maybe they do now. Maybe they're being part of Europe has changed the taste, but the Irish generally don't do flavor. Generally don't do like spice or anything like that. But so everything had fucking jalapenos in it, and I couldn't eat anything for the longest time. It took a while for me to acclimate to the food, and then also to acclimate to like being married and
living with somebody.
Yeah, and work. It took a while before I could work, and
What'd you do?
I got a job. I got a job at a company that did like something very boring. It was like they wrote like real estate reports or something like that.
Were you already doing stand up?
No, I didn't do stand up till I moved to Chicago.
And did you go to Chicago after Dallas?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's your late 20s?
Yeah, 28.
28.
Yeah, 2004. My dad had just passed. In 2004, my dad passed away, and I got a divorce. So it was like
a rough year.
Yeah, it was a pretty rough year. But then I moved to Chicago, and I loved Chicago.
Did you move because it was a rough year? You're like, I need a new start.
I moved because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, and the only person I knew in America was a friend of mine who I went to school with in England. And
Chicago.
Yeah, and he was living in Chicago, and I said, "Can I stay on your couch for 2 weeks?" And
had you visited before Chicago?
Yeah, like once.
Okay.
And I just asked if I could crash on his couch, and I did, and then it's been 13 years. Not still on the couch, but right. Still in Chicago.
In 2008, you said?
2004.
I'm sorry.
And I started doing stand-up in 2006.
2006. What made you start doing stand-up?
I was writing. I was doing I was doing these weird writing jobs. I was writing kids' books of all things for a company. It was like licensed characters. It was like Scooby Doo and Sesame Street.
You're writing those?
Yeah.
Cool.
The one.
Wait a second. Did you write for the Sesame Street and Muppets and stuff?
Just the book, just the books, though.
Yeah, the books.
Yeah.
Because I was Googling you, and something came up for like a Disney thing. It was like, he wrote these books. I was like, that can't be the same guy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, some books you would get a byline, other books you wouldn't. I think the Sesame Street ones we would, and there was annoying books that kids have with the sound effects. So
right.
Like they read a bit of the thing and then they press a button.
Right.
So yeah, I did that for like 2 years. And I was also writing articles for a magazine in Chicago, and the first one that I pitched, because there was someone in the book company, her boyfriend was a stand-up comedian.
Okay.
And he was telling me about how hard it was to get stage time in Chicago, because this was 2006. And there wasn't a lot of stage time in Chicago, and he said that, he was saying that basically at that point, Chicago was a sketch and improv town.
Yeah. I was there for improv.
Yeah. And that's like, it's hard getting, there's like 3 basic schools.
Yeah.
Improv schools in Chicago, and they're legitimate industries.
Yeah.
And you've got hundreds upon hundreds of people doing improv.
Yep.
And they can't get stage time.
It's hard. You have to have an in, which I did.
Yeah. You did?
Yeah. I had an in. So
what was your in?
I performed at I.O. I was on Herald teams and stuff, so I got to perform there every week, and I was able to do that because I was at I.O. West in Los Angeles for 5 years, and the owner saw me And I told her I'm moving to Chicago, and she's like, "Oh, we'll put you on a team," and that's how that worked out.
Are you still doing it out here?
I haven't. I want to do more, some improv out here. I've taken classes out here.
Yeah.
Just to kind of, get the rust off.
Yeah,
It's been a while. But I'd like to perform more. But now it's hard. Now I don't have the in, so now it's hard to get stage time for improv.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And then I did Annoyance out there in Chicago.
Yeah.
I did Second City.
Yeah.
I did those things.
Yeah, those are both great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done stand-up at both those places.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Annoyance and Second City, I like them because they're, and IO too, I like that they all have like a distinct flavor to them. Mm-hmm. You can sort of tell. They all have a different sort of approach.
Were you ever tempted to take an improv class?
I have been. I won some competition where I got free Second City classes, but I never took them up on it.
Oh.
I should have at least taken a writing class. But so anyway, I met the stand-up. He was telling me that about the stand-up scene. And I said, well, that actually sounds kind of interesting, because he was saying that, at the time there was only one legitimate stand-up club in Chicago. There was only Zanies.
Right.
And so every other show that you
Old
did...
Town?
Yeah, yeah. There was, there's improv on the burbs, but Chicago in the '80s had, I think it had like something 11 stand-up clubs, and then by 2006, that the fact it was just one was kind of crazy.
That's crazy.
So the only shows were, really there was the Beat Kitchen, Chicago Underground Comedy, and the Lincoln Lodge. Those are the two alt shows, and then there's maybe some other bar shows, but other than that, it was just open mics.
Right.
So.
Were you already a fan of stand-up?
I was. Oh, yeah, huge fan.
Your whole life?
Yeah, and it was one of those things where I loved it, and it was like, to me, it would be like jumping out of an airplane. I was like, I'd love to do stand-up, but I'd also love to jump out,
Yeah.
I'm too terrified to do either thing. They sound great in concept, but I'm never going to
I'm not driving.
Yes, exactly. I'm not driving. Yeah. The only thing that terrified me more than those two things was driving. So I talked to him. I followed him around for a couple of weeks, and I wrote this article. And then at the end of the article, I said, well, it would be fun just in case the editor asked me to do it. And I just kind of preempted. I said, I'll go to an open mic, and I'll do a 3-4 minute slot. And I got...
standing ovation.
No. I got one laugh. The first joke I did got a decent laugh.
Uh-huh.
And then the next 3 minutes was absolute silence. And then
that's humbling, right?
It wasn't even humbling, because it's, and I'm sure a lot of people have this, it was only humbling because the first joke worked.
Right.
Like, if only it had all been silence. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like, it's kind of like the first joke worked, and I'm like, I'm doing it, and then your bike falls off a cliff. And I just remember a guy called Dan Polidorus was the host, and I just remember him staring at me the rest of my set. He was giving it like a kind of helpful smile.
Did you memorize it or have it written down?
I remember, shit, that's a good question. I might have had notes.
Yeah. Just in case. Your first time.
Yeah. But anyway, the first laugh was enough.
Yeah.
To go and, because I think I was seeing, it might have been, I can't remember now.
Maybe you just do one joke. You get up, you get that laugh, and then you're done.
Yeah. Yeah, but and then I kind of just kept doing it, and then I kind of fell in with this crew of junkies, which stand-up junkies, some regular junkies too, I'm sure. But I think that helps a lot of people. Where like, there's guys who people who are funny, and they're like, who are like, well, need to get better, and then you kind of like get inculcated into their way of thinking, and then that's when it kind of goes nuts. That's when you're like, I've got to do three sets a night, and I got to go out. I got to do 15 sets a week, that kind of stuff.
And you're doing that, right? I looked at your calendar, and you were doing like 3. Like the other night, you did like 3 shows.
Yeah.
That's probably why you're sick.
Yeah, probably. But no, well, that stuff, well, no, that was, in those years, that was like all open mics, all like.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be able to do like
paid gigs,
or at least booked gigs. Is nice. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's good. I really like the New York scene. Everyone's been very, very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone's.
Do you have?
It's hard here because everyone's so funny. I mean, it's Chicago. Everyone's so. I don't know. Like everywhere you go, it's so funny when people like try to compare scenes. It's like, no, there's a lot of funny people. There's a lot of people doing this.
Well, you've opened for some big acts.
Yeah.
Any of those? Like, do you form any friendships with any of those people? Or
no, not really. They've all been very nice.
Okay.
The one act, the one person I sort of knew. There's some people I just know through doing stand up, like
Doug Benson.
Huh?
Doug Benson.
Doug.
You did a couple of his podcasts.
Yeah, I've done with him just because, and then he's had me open for him a couple of times. He's really nice. But that's just that's just through being in Chicago. You know what I mean, and just kind of being available. But he likes to change it up too. He's great. And then like Hannibal, I've just known through. I just knew through doing stand up in Chicago. A lot of people know Hannibal. Right. He's like cool that way. Like when Hannibal is in Chicago, he does every single show that's going. It's crazy. I think he's still an addict. Yeah, I didn't really form a lot of friendships, but everyone's been really nice. Aziz was so sweet. I remember I opened for Tracy Morgan. He kind of knocked my socks off just because this in the House of Blues. There was like separate dressing rooms for everyone, and like a guy came round and said, "You're one of the openers, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Tracy wants to see you." And Tracy Morgan just wants to sit and talk to his. He wants to talk to his openers.
Wow, what does he say?
It's. I'm
gonna get someone pregnant.
He's the exact same person.
Yeah.
On stage, off stage. He. My favorite story of him was I walked in. I was wearing like a skinny tie and a shirt. I walked in and I can't do the voice, but I'll probably accidentally end up doing the cadence, and I don't mean to. But I walked in and he was like, "Oh, you're one of those Mark Maron intellectual comics. You do jokes about rectums. I do jokes about assholes." Then I was like, well, that's funnier than anything I'm going to say all night long.
Can I use that line?
Yeah, I know. But then it doesn't work if I say it, because then it sounds like an insult to him. But it's that literally the first, as soon as I walked through the door, that's what he said, and I was like, Jesus Christ, was so funny. Just an interesting guy. Yeah, that is the great thing. Is like pretty much everyone I've been lucky enough to work with, I can't. It's hard pressed. I've asked a couple of comics this, like, have you ever met any out and out assholes? Like complete, like there's a guy I know in Chicago who's been doing it like 30 years, 30, 40 years, maybe not 40 years, but he's doing it definitely 30 years, and he and another long-time stand-up were like, they were able to come up with like 2 or 3 names of like out-and-out assholes. Mm-hmm. But people are generally, I think it's just the nature of the business. It doesn't really get you anywhere.
Yeah,
being a dick. But yeah, people are like, legitimately like, "Oh, you're like famous," and they're just perfectly sweet.
Yeah.
And friendly.
We're all humans.
Yeah.
Except for Trump, of course.
Yeah.
But the rest of us are humans, right? Let me check the time. See what we're doing. 7:15.
Yeah, there you go.
There it is.
I hope this has been fun. I've had fun. Thank you so
thanks
much
for taking a chance on a stranger.
Yeah. Please don't kill me. Please
I won't kill you.
Okay,
before you leave.
Yeah.
Me and that Hispanic woman, Mary, she's back there. It's time.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on the show. Thanks so much.
Well, thanks so much for being here. Have a good time in New York. And if you ever move back, let me know. I'll come see your stand-up and stuff.
Brilliant.
And tell Chicago I miss him.
I will. Let's fist bump it because I'm sick.
All right, let's do it.
There you go.
Boom. Have a good night. Oh, do you want to plug anything? Like your website or Twitter?
Yeah, AdamBurkeComedy.com.
AdamBurkeComedy.com. All right, cool.
There you have it, folks. That was Adam Burke. Thanks so much, Adam, for coming by and talking with me. Really good chatting with you. Hope you're feeling better. And that'll do it for this podcast. One more time for the plugs, go to Twitter at EJ Scott and at EJ Podcast. My website, ejscott.com. What else? Running Blind documentary on iTunes, Amazon, and Google Play. Crowdrise.com/7on7 for the charity stuff. I'm on Instagram, EJScott1106. And go check out Adam's stand-up. And that'll do it. I have a bunch of podcasts coming out, a lot of great guests lined up. So subscribe, listen, go follow me, and go check out my previous podcast. And if you can, please share and tell your friends about the podcast and that you're enjoying it. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.